want to support the girls, gays, and theys. Like, hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Andrew. Today I want to go over some goals that I have just for the year in general. I've written a couple down, but if I think of any extras while we're at it, then I will just throw those out there. But my first goal that I wrote is to DNF more books, which I am conflicted about because I normally DNF like it's no big deal, and I will just mark the book on Goodreads that I read it if I got to about 50%. If it's less than 50%, if it's less than 40%, I'm definitely not gonna do it. But if it's like 40 to 50, I might mark it just so I like know I attempted it, make the notes. There's a couple that say I've read them on Goodreads and I haven't actually finished, but yeah, I don't know. But I want to DNF more, and I think what I am kind of putting together with this in my head is that I want to, it's funny because I saw, so it's Joanna. She made a video where she said she has never regretted finishing a book. And while I can't say the same thing, I do feel like, because I mostly read audio, I feel like I want to try to figure out if fantasy audiobooks are hindering my experience. Because last year, my favorite book of the year, I read it physically. And a very, very hyped up popular series that was in my most disappointing reads, I read it audibly, which is the Mistborn trilogy. And I'm very curious if I was to go back and read it physically, if my opinions would change. Because I do feel like sometimes audiobook narrators are for the better and sometimes they're for the worse. Because I specifically was going to listen to the Poppy War and then I listened to the narrator and I was like, no. And then I read it physically and I gave it 5 stars. So, and Joanna says in her video, she was like, I have DNF'd audiobooks. Like, I will stop listening to it if I'm not vibing with the narrator. And maybe I just need to figure out who I can and who I can't listen to. Because obviously, if reading it physically means I'm going to give it 5 stars, I should read it physically. That was a tangent. I also want to read other genres. I want to read just as diversely as possible in terms of genre, in terms of the author. I want to make sure that I am prioritizing people of color. I did a chart last year. I didn't track my reading all year until I decided I had such a mediocre reading year. I thought, let me take a look at this. Let me see what's going on. So I put in every single book I read into a spreadsheet, and then I tracked mostly. I was just curious, like, was I reading more men, or was I not reading enough people of color? And I'll try to put the chart up here because I definitely was reading way too many white authors. And the problem is that if you try to continue a series and the series is written by a white author, like if you're, not that I did this last year, but if you're reading like A Wheel of Time or The Witcher books or just anything, or Brandon Sanderson, like if you're reading all of these authors, all of their books, like they're making their way up your spreadsheet. Or if you're reading all 25 of Cassandra Clare's books, like that's a big chunk of white authors because like it's a series and I want to read series, I want to continue series, but I want people of color to be able to continue their series also, so that's a whole just mind shift. I also want to read more urban fantasy. I feel like I definitely have read multiple urban fantasies via audio and loved it, so I think that it's just maybe I can't handle high epic fantasy as an audio experience. Love to hear your thoughts on that, but for me, yeah, like The Diviners and most of Cassie Clare and Strange the Dreamer, actually I did on audio, and I did The Name of the Wind on audio, and I love all of those things, and they were on audio, and some of them are high fantasy, some of them are urban fantasy, but I feel like urban fantasy just has, I literally just filmed a review for Legendborn, which if it's there, I'll link it, but I literally just listened to that whole thing on audio, and I'm, again, curious, like, would I have a better experience if I read it physically? I don't know. Another goal is for me to find my booktube twin, which I saw Meg with Books do last year. She has a whole contest. My plan is not to have a whole contest. My plan is to just find which booktubers I can go to for certain recommendations in certain genres, because there are definitely people that when I first watched booktube thought, because they have so much fantasy content, that they were who I should go to for fantasy recommendations. But I have since learned that me and those people do not share taste. And I bet you if you watch my most disappointing reads, you could guess who I have opposite taste to. But I just want to find who I can go to for a recommendation. And I need to make sure I'm watching a plethora again, because I want to be reading diversely, and in terms of genre and author, I'm trying to make sure that my subscription box and the people I'm watching is diverse, as well as the genres that they read are diverse. Like I just found Lily Reads because she reads mostly romance and thrillers, and I found her because she reviewed The Charm Offensive, which was one of my favorite books last year, and I'm like, and she reads mostly romance and thrillers. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna see if like me and her have similar taste in romance and thrillers. So far, we have one book one book that I can use to determine that we have similar romance taste. But I gotta see if the other romance books that she likes are also gonna vibe with me. And I have whole sets of lists on my phone of what I can be reading to test that theory. I also want to make sure I have a video going out once a week, and I think that I have pre-filmed so many videos. I'm going to continue to pre-film like 10 to 15 videos at a time. I think that is just going to be the best option for me. I'm going to be doing lots of sit-down videos because they are just so much easier to pump out at a faster rate than vlogs, and I kind of hate vlogs. Vlogs destroyed my life last year. They made me hate making content, so I don't want to vlog. I love watching vlogs. If you do vlogs, you keep doing it. If you have fun with them, I love that for you. I'm not saying I'll never vlog, but I am saying it's gonna be way more rare. Also, I want to be more engaged in live shows. I want to be participating in general discussions, in book discussions. I want to be present. I want to feel more engaged, plugged in to Booktube. I feel like I am also barely engaged in like Bookstagram. Like I just pop in and out of there every now and then, and I just really more so like follow people. I don't really like post stuff, but I would much rather be engaging with other booktubers than bookstagrammers, because they're, I mean, in the sense of like, I just don't feel like it's gonna give me the same satisfaction. Like I did a live show with Bethany from Beautifully Bookish Bethany it was just so much fun. It was so much fun, and then we got to discuss like all kinds of like booktube-ish stuff after the live show, and it was just so good. It was so good, and I just want to build those relationships, but I'm just not really sure how I can do it. I'm a very shy person, so feel free to message me, comment on my videos, like that's fine. But I want to have like live shows, maybe discussing certain books, discussing book tropes, like just anything that's like more of a general book discussion, or like what people like in fantasy. I don't like, because there's a lot of live shows that are book specific that once I read the book, I love to watch, but there's a lot of books out there. So just having more general discussions, I feel like, is also what I want. I also want to participate in more like year-long read-alongs for series, and there are so many series that could fit into this. Like I'm not sure I guess what I'm gonna do this year is like I want to read along with The Witcher because Bethany from Beautifully Bookish Bethany's doing it, and then like with Leanna, and that's something that like I want to do that every year. I feel like so like just one series every year, and I guess I'll just do whatever Bethany and Leanna are doing. And I know Mara from books like Woe and Leanna are also doing The Blade Itself, which would be something else I would maybe want to do. But again, The Witcher and The Blade Itself are both white authors. So if I read all those books, then it's like so I want to only have one if it's a white author, because I'm trying to continue to have everything be diverse. And if I try to do like The Witcher and I try to do The Blade Itself and I try to do all of that, I feel like I'm really focusing on high fantasy, and I want to read more mystery. I think fantasy is my favorite genre, but then I read a fantasy with a mystery plot, and then that becomes 5 stars, and then I'm like, so is it really the fantasy or is it the mystery? Because those two things are my favorite. And I again, we're talking about Mara again, I'm so sorry. But she always says like she loves fantasy, mystery, and romance, and I think that I agree with the fantasy and mystery part of like her and I think have similar fantasy and romance taste. No, I'm sorry, fantasy and mystery taste. I think that her and I have different romance taste. So that's why, you know, those 3 things together, but I like how she worded it in the sense that she doesn't necessarily want a romance, but if it has romantic elements, it means that the plot and the books are going to be much more character focused, and they're going to be more about what's happening like between characters and having character dialogue. And she also has said like when it comes to fantasy, she has to be bought into the characters. I mean, that's what makes sense to me. Like I love having a world. I want another world like this. This is what I want. My number one thing I want another YA fantasy or adult fantasy, or something that has like this many insane amount of books that you just get like sucked into. That is really what I want, and I've been hunting for it ever since this happened to me. This is what made me start a book channel. So I need something else that is this long and epic and similar, and has most of these series are fantasy, mystery, romance. Like, and I love the romance, and I love the romantic element. Like it's very character driven. You know, there's just so few people out here doing it like Cassie, but I want something like this, obviously. And ideally, it would be by a person of color. But when you really think about it, there's so few series, like over 4 books by a person of color. And I think that's because publishing sucks. And I'm trying to do my part as a reader to make sure that I'm not contributing to only reading 12 book series by white authors. Because I don't know, it's such a double-edged sword, because it's like I want this, but I want it to be a person of color. Like, that's what I want. So if anyone has any recommendations. Okay, and then also ideally I would have my goal, as I've been saying with reading diversely, as far as genres, I would like to just see literally everything. I want to see like 10% of every single, well, not really. I want to see like 10% nonfiction, 10% romance, 10% fantasy, 10% mystery, 10%, maybe not 10%, maybe like 20%. I'm still gonna guess that fantasy by the end of the year will be my most read genre because that is just what I am the most interested in reading. But hopefully like second most is mystery, and then I really want to dive into nonfiction, and I want to figure out if I can like lit fic, because after reading Normal People last year, that book was trash. I'm sorry girls, but that book did not hit at all. Did not like it. And I think Janine from This Story Ain't Over, she also hates that book. So I'm gonna try to see, she's on my booktube twin possibility list, maybe for lit fic, because I don't know, lit fic is a weird place for me, and I feel like it's not as fun. So I don't know about that. My point being, I want to figure out if I can like all the genres, because I think it's possible if you find what you like in each genre. So with that, I also want to have 50% or more books written by written by or containing characters that are LGBT, because I'm LGBT and I want to support the other LGBT and QIAP+. So, you know, I want to support the girls, gays, and theys, like all the time. And also I want to have 50%, I want all my goals to just be 50-50. 50% authors I've read before, 50% new authors. I have read so many different authors. I think last year I was constantly reading like new authors, and I feel like that was part of the mediocre experience, and I need to just really look back at the ones that I enjoyed. I may or may not have already released a video, but there was a video that I did for authors I want to read more from. There was like 20 authors on that list, and I need to just do that. But I would love to have like 50% new to me, 50% already read before. Wow, why did that take me so long to think of that? And my other goal is that I really want to be able to make a top 10 fantasy series list by the end of this year. I am only going to set the goal that it is fantasy and that I have been caught up on the series or completed the series. I'm not going to make any rules about it only being adult or YA, or I just want to be able to make a top 10. Right now I have 6, and I don't want to make a list of 6, but I want to make a list of 10. And I want to keep reading until I get to 10. I have 2 more on the bubble of being added. So then really, I've just read the first book in those series, so I want to complete those series, and then I just need to read 2 more series after that that'll become all-time favorites, or at least current favorites, whatever. But I want to make a top 10 fantasy series list because I love watching it. I have an entire note on my phone of maybe 50 Booktubers top 10 fantasy lists, so we're working our way through that. I maybe will make a video maybe will make a video on that, but I am gonna try to focus on the Booktubers who I am almost done with their 10 favorite series list, and then try to react to it and just share my thoughts, because it's important to me, not really, I don't see how maybe it'd benefit you if you know your taste as well as you. Some people know it way better than some people know their taste way better than I know my taste, and I'm very jealous of you people that know it. I want to be on that level, but I think that maybe if you watched other people's channels and I'm reacting to like other people's favorites list, you can kind of see if you've read the series, like if you're more in line with me versus them, or what. So far, nobody has gotten like a hit all 10 series. I have not had anybody that I have been like, every single series they have listed is also a favorite for me. But there's a lot of people that I've only read like 1 or 2 series on their list. So I don't think that it would be an interesting thing to release if I haven't read all the series, or at least the first book in each series on that person's list. I've only done it with one other person, that is Emma Books, which I will also link up there for you to watch should you desire. But yes, I am very much on the hunt for favorites. I'm out here trying to find the favorites. So if you have a top 10 fantasy list, I want it. Let me see it. So yeah, those are pretty much all my goals. Basically just reading more diversely in terms of authors and genres, making sure I'm supporting the girls, gays, and theys, and being more involved in other people's content / live shows and all that good stuff. I would love to do it. I would love to host it on my own channel. If you have yours, I can host it. I always am like, I want to do this. I'm like, but I could just do it myself because I have a channel. I forget that that's an option. So maybe I'll just try to host more. Why not? Okay, so I think that is long enough. So I will leave my Instagram, Goodreads, and Twitter. It will all be in the description for you to check out if you would like. Otherwise, have a great day. Bye.